Welcome one and all to episode 21 of Teatime. I'm one of your hosts, Petter, and with me I got my co-host, James.
Mikasa!
And today we're talking about chapter 138 of the Attack on Titan manga, A Long Dream. Do you want to talk about the title of the chapter for a moment?
Let's just go there. Yeah.
Yeah, so what you got?
Well, bear with me because I was going back and forth between a lot of thoughts as I was writing down my notes.
All right.
So, to me, I think it's partly a reference to chapter 1, how Eren felt like he woke up from a long dream. And I think he even mentions that in that chapter.
Yeah, he literally says, I feel like I just had the longest dream.
Right. So I think, there's a lot you could possibly take from that, going into, alternate realities, to just him having a vision of the future. There's also the fact that Mikasa says the same thing, and her kind of vision / dream / alternate reality of what life could have been like if she had made a different choice way back in chapter 123. It parallels so much what happens in chapter 1, in that Mikasa wakes up from a dream being woken up by the other person, and Eren's picking up sticks.
Oh, dude, I actually didn't think about that one.
Yeah. He asks Mikasa why she's crying. And, well, before that, she talks about the long dream, and then he asks her why she's crying, and she's crying. And that's basically what goes down in chapter 1. So there's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah.
As for, what that is, we can talk about it later on, but I'll just say that I'm not sure if this is supposed to be symbolic or an actual alternate reality that Eren has some sort of access to in his memories. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
I think a lot of people have some different ideas on that, and we're definitely going to talk about that more in depth later in the discussion. But yeah, I also feel like, A Long Dream, the title of this, it's absolutely a reference to, chapter 1 with Eren waking up from that dream. And I think it's very possible that the dream that Eren was having before he woke up in the first chapter, the way I see it, it's very possible that dream was literally the whole story, basically his entire life from that point until his death. Basically, the whole manga up to this point was what he was dreaming about. But the only thing he recalled when he had just recently woken up was Mikasa's last words there. That's what we saw.
Oh my gosh!
Because dreams kind of work like that, it's hard to remember them a lot of the time. And so at least that's what I'm choosing to believe right now, is that he literally was dreaming the entire manga, like the whole story he had just dreamed about when he woke up.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. He comments when he wakes up in chapter 1 that Mikasa, well, he says like, your hair is longer again or something like that, which one confirms that he's into short hair, and two, he clearly saw a moment where, Mikasa's hair was at a certain length, and that shot we see of her in that open field, somewhat open field, saying "So long, Eren," is something that he saw in this dream. Now that's not exactly what happened before, the last thing he saw before he got beheaded, technically speaking.
Right.
Mikasa was the last thing he saw, but not in that outfit, not in that way. And it could just all be symbolic. But at the same time, why is it exactly how Mikasa envisioned it and not how Eren was seeing it?
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about that. Do you?
Right.
I mean, we could have that discussion now, I guess.
No, I'm sorry. It's just, like I said, my thoughts are over the place. We could wait till the end. That's fine.
All right. Okay.
That could be a little teaser for for that discussion.
Good idea. Okay, so getting into the chapter, we see the cliff baby again.
Aha!
So there's clearly something. There's going to be something with that baby, especially since it's been appearing so much now.
you guys were like, not mocking me, but you guys were teasing me for being so worried about the baby. It wasn't so much I was worried per se. I just knew that he brought it up for a reason.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm not exactly sure if there's anything beyond just the baby will be alive. It'll be a sign that humanity is willing to even sacrifice themselves for the child, for the future generation. But I mean, I guess there could be something. Personally, I think that it'll just be, simple celebration at the end, depending on what happens, and then the baby won't be really relevant going forward.
Right. But like, even though like I still mostly think that the final panel is, baby Aaron. That is still what I believe in the
Yeah.
most. But with this chapter, I'm like I am becoming slightly more like, I
Oh,
guess,
really?
positive to the idea that this might be that baby. I'm not like, it's not the one that I believe in the most yet, but it like,
Right.
I do feel a bit more confident in that it might be this one.
I mean, one chapter left to find out.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, I can't wait to talk about predictions at the end of this
Yes.
episode. But yeah, I guess, do you have anything more on the Cliff Baby?
Nah.
And on the same page, we see the Wall Titans are, well, they seem to be very tired now that they're not being controlled anymore.
They're kind of collapsing, if you will.
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly why. I guess I think there could be some speculations. I'm thinking that these Colossal Titans or Wall Titans have been being controlled for several days straight now, and they've been, I guess, more or less forced to do some very straining physical activities. Like they swam across the ocean. They've been walking for days on end. Does maybe that make sense for them to be tired enough to collapse potentially?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like Titans have ever shown ever being tired.
I mean,
If their limbs don't work or if something doesn't work, then
no, they
wh-
do actually, or at least when they
when
are
have they ever showed that they've been exhausted?
only when they don't have sunlight. So I
But
guess I
that's
didn't. Yeah, they are in sunlight right now. So yeah, I don't know.
I think it's just showing that they're not being controlled anymore rather than just stopping. I mean, it's I see what you're saying. They did go through a lot of physical strain, but I think it just, to me, it's just showing that instead of them potentially continuing, that they're just kind of stopping and losing the control that um, Aaron and Ymir had over them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I guess it still remains to be seen just how they will act now that they are in control of themselves. Because we talked a little bit about this last month. You were mostly thinking that they would probably just stop and be kind of passive, but I thought that they would act like regular mindless titans, basically go after humans mindlessly. So I guess we still don't know for sure.
Yeah, I guess technically not, but you think there was a bit of a delay before the action picked up again.
True.
So you think he would have shown that happening if they were willing to start it, just attacking randomly.
Yeah, and I do see, like, yeah, based on this chapter, I do feel like maybe you were right, but I'm still a bit bummed out by that because I feel like why would these titans act differently just because they're larger? But
I don't
yeah, I
know.
guess maybe we don't need to know.
I guess I've always had that impression of the Wall Titans that they're not necessarily similar to your everyday Colossal Titan.
I mean, yeah, they're not colossal titans.
Well, not Colossal, excuse me. Just everyday, just regular Titan. You know, they don't necessarily go after people.
That might
I
be.
don't know why, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can't know exactly, but I mean, yeah, at this point, it seems like that might be the case. But yeah, we're getting back to the characters from the last chapter. We see the families of the warriors, and the others are hopping off Falco's back. And something that I thought was really like one of the first things that happened here that I thought was like pretty powerful is that at this point in the chapter, the characters are under the assumption that Aaron most likely died from the explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing Mikasa just kind of realize that shit, my last conversation with Aaron was when he told me that he hated me.
Oh
Like,
gosh, that was so hard.
oh, that's gotta
Oh,
suck.
right?
Damn. Like, your last memory with this person is such a negative memory.
I'll be honest. Part of the reason why in our last discussion, I was saying how sad I thought it would be if they didn't like meet again in person somehow in reality rather
Uh-huh.
than in paths. This is part of the reason why is because the last thing they said or that
Mm.
Aaron said was that he hated her. So I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want it to end like that. But then again, I
Yeah.
guess paths could have worked just as well.
Could have, perhaps, but I do like the way Isayama went with
Oh
this
yeah,
chapter.
for sure, for sure.
It was very fitting for his story. But yeah, that was definitely like a very powerful thing. It's kind of the first, I guess, really interesting bit we see of Mikasa this chapter. As a
Hmm.
little bit of a hint that she will absolutely be the star of the chapter, at least in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. She's star of the chapter. This is yeah,
Uh-huh.
her all that build up is to this. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, no, totally. And yeah, and so it was after this, it was wonderful to see all of the Marlians, reuniting with their families.
Yeah.
That was
Oh, it was
so
so
worth it.
great.
Like
Mm-hmm.
like I was like, yeah, like 'cause before this I was maybe a little bit well, sort of, I didn't know why none of them had died yet.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
so now I understand why Isayama wanted to keep them alive for this, because
Right.
this moment was so good. Like, in the moment when I read this the first time and I just saw Gabby, Falco, and Peak reunite with their parents,
Mm-hmm.
like, it was such a powerful moment. And then obviously what happens later makes it even more, like, it just
Ah,
flips it, like, completely, and it's just so awful. And it's so impactful, and it's so well executed, I think.
right. Yeah. Last chapter when it was all done, or when it ended, and the warriors were still okay. I
Mm.
I felt like yeah, okay, they'll have their reunion. So when it happened, I was like, great. So they should be okay now. And then the thing still moved, and Aaron popped up, and I was like, oh no. They had their final goodbye. Something is going to happen, and
Yeah.
sure enough, something did. But at the very least, I'm glad we got this moment. But I still need the Annie and Mr. Lionheart reunion along with the Reiner and his mom reunion. It can't end like that. It just can't.
But it did.
Well, I mean, no. In the
Wait.
next chapter, it can't end like that.
I see. So you think they might be turned back to humans?
Well,
Or you're hoping for it?
it's a possibility. I'm not giving predictions. I'm just saying that not
Gotcha.
having that reunion between them, I feel like that's got to be something that's addressed in the next chapter, in the last chapter.
Okay. Okay. That's a fair opinion. Uh, Personally, at least regarding Annie and her father's, well, quote unquote reunion,
Mm-hmm.
it was very brief, and they really just kind of saw each other, and then shit went
Mm-hmm.
down. But I actually really liked that. Like, because we
What?
knew ever since Annie came back from the crystal, we knew that
Mm-hmm.
her main goal, like what she was fighting for the most in the world, was to get back to her dad.
Yeah.
And so for her to be so close in this chapter, but then have that uh, chance just
Ripped away.
ripped away from her, I really kind of enjoyed it. Like, I think I like
You masochist.
the tragedy of it is just so good. Like, they've been apart from each other for 9 years, and now they are like, we get this little taste of them reuniting, but no, of course it's not gonna happen. This is Attack on Titan.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen next chapter.
I personally hope not, because I enjoyed it.
You laugh. It.
I'm sorry.
I mean, okay. If it doesn't happen and they don't get to see each other, like her dad is forever Titan or disappears or whatever happens, then you know what? I'll be fine with it because I'm sure he'll bring up something that'll make it better or whatever.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'll be okay with it. But I think there's a reason why he did it that way, along with Reiner and his mom. It is to build that final suspense for this moment,
Hmm.
and then it will be resolved in the next chapter, in the last chapter.
Hmm. Perhaps.
I don't know why. Wow, you're very against this.
Well, okay, so you and I talked on our Discord server
Uh
yesterday
huh.
about Connie and Jean getting
Mm-hmm.
turned into Titans, and yesterday we agreed that like we didn't want them to come back because the send off was so good, right?
Now hold up. I don't think for me it's not. I don't want them to come back.
Ah,
It's I wouldn't mind if they didn't come back. I wouldn't mind if everyone else came back, but some didn't because they were squashed or killed during that squabble.
I see, I see.
Um, and if it turns out John and Connie or one of them are killed, I think they had a good enough send off at that point. But I wouldn't mind them both coming back as well.
Hmm.
You know.
Okay, okay,
So,
I see, I see.
but I know you feel a little differently.
This whole thing with all these characters being turned into Titans, I feel like you and I have complete different opinions on because I kind of don't want I don't want most of these to come back. The only one I actually want to come back is Gabby because
Yeah.
she didn't get the kind of send off that Connie and Jean got.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I'll talk more about it in predictions later on, but I will say that mostly based on the fact that she didn't get that kind of attention before they were turned, she's the only one that I want to come back.
I totally agree with you on Gabby, and that's actually a big reason. I know I mentioned Annie and Reiner, but that's another big reason why I think there will be some sort of resolution to that, in that they become human again. Because while it is sad that Gabby got so little time with her family, or whatever, it's also the fact that Falco and Reiner worked so hard to make sure that she wouldn't turn into a Titan.
Hmm.
You know, Falco did so much, and it was his whole like goal, motivation. They even brought it up just a few chapters ago, and then this happens. And yes, it's tragic. Tragic. I get it, but at the same time, it kind of almost takes away everything that they did, and it was for naught. So I guess if you're into that, not saying you specifically, but if people are into that kind of thing, sure. and I'm sure Isayama will make it seem better if that is the case. But I think because of that, there is going to be a chance or a way for the Titans to come back, turn back into people, and not just eat someone. But we can talk about that later in predictions.
Right. And yeah, I don't think it's out of the question entirely. I just really enjoyed the sacrifice here, and I was so touched by obviously especially Jean's and Connie's final moments and just them
Mm-hmm.
kind of reminiscing about the Survey Corps and like basically they're fine with how it turned out, all things considered, and I was super moved by that. Like the first time I read it, I was moved, and the second time I read it, I was even more moved by it. And I've seen some beautiful fan art of that, just that moment with Jean and Connie. I'm so happy that the fandom is really kind of just praising these two characters in their final moments, or well, presumably their final moments.
I mean, it's climactic and a great moment in my opinion. So yeah, no doubt.
Yup. But moving back a little bit in the
Mm-hmm.
chapter, so when everything is going really well, the warriors are reuniting with their families and like all that, everything seems almost kind of too good to be true for a moment in the chapter. Because I remember at the end of the previous chapter, I said that I thought the action was over.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what you said, but at least I remember that I was like, yeah, this is the end of the action. The last two chapters will focus on
Right.
the
I think I was
aftermath.
in the same boat, to be honest.
I think yeah, we might have been both there, but and so I felt that way at the end of that chapter. But in this chapter, when when we saw all these happy wholesome moments between these characters and their families, that was when I was like, oh, this is a little too good to be true. I don't know if
Oh,
I'm
really?
like I
Ah.
don't know if I'm super comfortable with this. So that was when I felt like, yeah, maybe Aaron isn't done with after all.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I felt in that way. I felt the same. I thought you were just dissatisfied. I was like, wait a minute, this is too
Oh,
good to be true.
oh no no no
This,
no yeah.
how dare he? How dare he make it somewhat happy?
No,
I thought
no,
you were
no,
talking
no,
about
not
that.
like that. No, no, no. I
Oh,
loved
okay.
seeing them reunite with their families. That was awesome. But just seeing that happy time kind of made me very suspicious. I was like,
Mm,
what if, yeah,
yes,
this doesn't
I felt the
seem
same way.
right. Yeah. And so yeah, lo and behold, Aaron did come back, and the centipede was doing fine too.
Yeah, man, that thing is practically invincible.
Uh huh.
Uh, I guess get some boiling water or something. Pour it on the Mukade.
Right.
That should do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, or fire or something. Or well, I guess it could
Fire.
withstand the blast. So I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know, man.
boiling water. I'm telling you, that's how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And also, kind of around that point in the chapter, we saw Secretary Miller and Annie's dad. And I thought their interaction was really sweet. It was really nice to see that Miller seems to be a really solid guy.
I mean, I was telling people this that those fires were not. They're just up in the air or somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, it was not meant to be actual conflict. He was just trying to calm down his men. And I guess the explosion from Armin's Colossal Titan ended up helping out in that sense as well. But yeah, so I felt like, yeah, this was kind of or people were calling this before, but I'm glad that there was a moment of understanding between the two
Mm.
before, turned into a Titan and probably maybe potentially scarred him for life. I mean, we'll see.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think I was just really overthinking this, or those gunshots or cannon shots that we heard from the fort. I was really probably just overthinking that, because this really makes sense, because or based on what we saw from Mueller previously,
Right.
it makes sense for him to be this kind of a person. And yeah, and this is such a sweet scene. We see like Marleyan soldiers in the background helping out the Eldians that are like either tired or wounded.
Yeah,
So nice.
it really is. I guess before we move on, can we just talk about Aaron's colossal form?
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
oh my goodness! Like I did not expect going into the end that we would have an Aaron colossal form. But why? why? Why is this a thing? How is this a thing? I guess Ymir is like maybe Aaron is, hey Ymir, I need a colossal titan now. He's like, all right, and went with
Mm.
it. But why? Zeke is gone. The centipede's not there. How? I just I don't know. It doesn't completely make sense. And I was definitely fine with it at the moment, but thinking back, I was kind of like, I have questions, but I'm okay with it. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
it's meant for being hype and exciting, and I get it. I don't think it makes complete sense in what was going on, but you know what? We're dealing with the founder, Titan or whatever. I'm okay with it.
Well, I think it's fine because I don't think this is anything related to the founder. What
Well, okay, yeah,
Aaron's
yeah, yeah.
form right here, because I think the centipede thing is what's related to the founder, at least from what
Right.
I've understood it.
That's fair.
So right now, what is causing Aaron to be able to take this colossal form is, I think, purely on Ymir and nothing else. And I think that's made possible because of, I guess, her loyalty or alliance with Aaron right now. So I think in that sense, I buy it personally.
Okay. Okay. So it's not. It doesn't really matter what Titan power you eat. Then it just depends on what Ymir gives you.
I guess. I mean, I'm sure Aaron gets special treatment now because he interacted with Ymir in the way he did. So yeah, something like that is my thinking.
Understandable.
Mm.
Understandable. They mentioned that they need to go to Aaron. Like that's because they realize that the centipede is invincible at this point
Yeah.
for whatever reason. Because it's a Mukade, it's a centipede. You can't kill those things.
Yep.
And so they need to go to Aaron, and everyone seems to have that kind of. I gotta think of a word that's not Japanese. Determination, and I like how Isayama basically exhausted all the options possible, even going into paths and everything, to get to this point where it becomes obvious that the only thing we can do is kill Eren. Like
Yeah.
that has to be the option. We can't do anything against Mukade, and we definitely can't do anything against Ymir. At this point, it has to be Eren. So uh, it kind of forces Mikasa into a corner in that sense. I mean, she was probably already there to begin with, but it helps her get to the point where she can make make the ultimate decision for her.
Mm.
And so I like how Isayama wrote that. Maybe I don't know if he had that in mind, but I think it's really smart to, yeah, basically, like I said, exhaust all of the options
Yeah.
possible before getting to that point.
Totally. And also the fact that, with so many of the characters being turned into Titans, at the end there weren't a lot of options for people to do it, like to do that deed, to kill Eren.
Mm-hmm.
So, Levi was injured, Reiner and Peak were fighting the centipede.
Mm-hmm.
It really was up to Mikasa.
Yeah, yeah. He set it up. He set it up so well for that.
So cruel.
Yeah, it's very cruel. Well, okay, I'm gonna say it. So you remember I didn't go back and listen, but I'm pretty sure in one of our podcasts
Huh?
I said that Mikasa would it was kind of building up to Mikasa being the one to kill Eren because he was kind of pointing it or pushing it to giving Mikasa that choice.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess it did happen that way. I can't, but at the same time, I can't remember if I exactly said that or not. I know, I may have one time said like wrap the scarf around him or just be the one to kill him, but I think, especially now, you can see that he was pushing it to this point.
Right, and it makes perfect sense, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like looking back, and I mean, I have enjoyed the thought of that. I can't remember exactly who and how we have speculated along those
Mm-hmm.
lines, but I have definitely been enjoying that idea, just because
Right.
it is so tragic. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, yep. And so about the centipede sending out the gas to make the Eldians into Titans, what did you think of that, first of all?
I thought it was brilliant because you go back to Rakako
Mm,
and Zeke using his own spinal fluid in a kind of a gas situation. And so it goes back to the fact that this centipede thing is basically the spine of the Titan powers. And
yeah,
of course its own spinal fluid would be the thing that can turn all of the Eldians into Titans.
for sure.
Now, it's a little strange how it's able to make it in a gas form. I don't understand how that works. But again,
Fair.
it's just one of the things like let's not think about that. but
Yeah.
but I think it was one climatic and two a really smart way to bring in that power and show how dangerous and powerful this centipede is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was, so when in this chapter here, when Connie is the one who's able to, to figure out that this is that kind of gas. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I read it, I was like, wait, how is he able to know that? Because
Mm.
everyone who sniffed in that gas turned into Titans back in Ragako, and they are all dead now, well, except for his mother, but they can't really
Mm-hmm.
talk to her anyway. Um, so I was thinking, like, how is Connie able to recognize that smell?
Hmm.
And so I think just on a surface level, it's hard to understand. And I mean, it's still like I don't have like a definite answer to it, but I have a speculation, or
Okay.
kind of like a headcanon. I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
something that I think makes it work. Basically, I think it makes sense for scientists on Parody to get samples of whatever from that village after that whole incident had happened, and I'm sure they would have been able to
Mm.
find traces of that gas, maybe in the ground or in the walls of the houses, or like they would have been able to find traces of that, and and they probably didn't replicate it. Actually, in fact, I know they never did, but I'm sure that they at least could have been able to get some kind of information from it. And so Connie, obviously being so affected by that incident would have been specifically keen on finding out more about it. So he would have maybe been in touch with those scientists and learned, maybe they were able to figure out like, ooh, this smelled like this or something like that. Or they learned stuff about it from Zeke, because they were in talks with Zeke a lot before he betrayed them. And he told them about this gas. He lied about the gas. He lied, saying that anyone who
Right.
gets it becomes like paralyzed. But he did still tell them about the gas. So that's also another option where maybe they learned from him. Maybe he described it like it smells like this or something. I'm not
So
entirely sure.
I think that's possible. I don't know how you describe that smell when they didn't really even describe it. But
Mm-hmm.
here's my thinking.
Mm.
One, I think he did know about the gas because they had heard from Zeke. Even though he lied about it being paralyzing, they still knew about the gas.
Right.
Two, they ask, okay, did it die? And Connie says no, it doesn't smell like Titan's death, which means so it's not the Titan's death. And so Connie just thinks, well, wait, what other instances do I know of that these cloud things comes? And he says, isn't this the same thing they did in Ragako? And it's not the sense, oh, this is the same smell as Ragako. Isn't this the same thing? So he's thinking in his memory,
Ah.
oh, this is what Zeke described. Isn't this the same thing? That's how I envision it.
That makes sense as well. Yeah. And yeah, no one has any reason to not believe that. So yeah, they're all just acting on that. And seeing Levi in that moment just kind of taking action, I thought was really
Right.
really cool.
Us.
And really sad too. And like when he turns around to peek and says, "Hurry up." Like his face there. That's so there's so much emotion, so much like desperation.
He knew he was gonna happen. He knew it.
It's so sad and intense.
I mean, technically, he kind of lived something similar with in the woods with Zeke, and then all of Levi's men turned into Titans
True.
because they
True.
drank the wine. So
Yeah. Totally.
yeah, he knows how dire that can be.
Yeah, man.
Oh man, it was this moment, and we always obviously talked about the Connie and Jean moment, but the moment that everyone's leaving and or getting on the back of Falco, and they're just kind of waiting to be turned into Titans. It is so tragic and sad.
Yeah.
Because you had all these happy feels right before this,
Yeah.
and then Isayama just kind of hits you with a left hook out of nowhere.
Definitely.
And oh man, basically what Falco is doing, just like crying in despair here as he flies away, just out of frustration, is basic. I wasn't like yelling or anything, but it's kind of how I felt. I mean,
Yeah.
I was sad that it came to this point. I was also kind of hyped, but still,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it is awful. And but speaking about that cry, that scream from Falco, a lot of people reading the chapter were confused, me included, about did that scream that Falco did cause them to transform after having inhaled the gas? Obviously, at this point, I don't think that was the case.
Yeah.
But when I was reading it the first time, because the way Isayama drew his Titan screaming, it has that kind of glow to it. It looks just like Isayama when he drew the Beast Titan screaming to control or transform Titans. It looks just the same way. And maybe this is just the way he draws any Titan that's screaming. So, that makes sense. But in the moment I was like really confused, like why on earth would Falco trigger them to transform? Well, I guess he probably doesn't even have that ability, first of all, because he's not royal blooded. But he did consume Zeke's spinal fluid, so maybe he would be able to with that in mind, but we don't know that. But yeah, like at this point I don't think so. And especially like my major reason to not think that anymore is because there's actually like 4 full panels of conversation between
Right.
Jean and Connie after the scream before they transform. So
Exactly.
So yeah, it definitely, at least the way I see it now, definitely is not the case. But it was confusing though. I think Isayama could have maybe drawn that differently, just to make it a little clearer. But yeah, I mean it works. It's good regardless.
I think it's totally fair to get confused by that. I mean, briefly I was like, wait, what's going on? Like, oh, okay, I guess he just screamed or whatever. But I definitely thought, or the thought crossed my mind is like, wait, why exactly did they change? But I guess it was just the centipede that summoned him, and not necessarily Falco screaming.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Or yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess we can't say. It would be an interesting little twist that I don't know why it would need to be there if they found out it was Falco who changed them.
Falco's been working for the centipede all along.
Well, maybe he didn't realize or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah. But yeah, all of these Eldians turn into Titans, and it's chaos.
Well, at least Young Capone's okay.
Yes. Yeah, it was nice to see him in like 2 panels.
And then, but I think this confirms we'll see him in the last chapter at the very least.
Yes, yes. I hope he's fine. I mean, he's in a very dangerous situation right now. He's
True.
like right
True.
in the open with a bunch of pure Titans roaming around. I'm like, dude, watch out, boy.
Well, at least the pure Titans are being controlled by the centipede at this point. They're all going to protect. Like I think they basically all ran off the cliff.
That's true. That's true. That's got to be the case. Yeah. So they're all going after Reiner or like Peek and Annie.
Mm-hmm.
So in this, like in the midst of this chaos, or like right when these Titans have transformed, we see Secretary Miller again in a couple of panels, and he has this like terrified expression on his face. Understandably, it's fair. I don't blame the man.
Right.
But thinking back onto like how willing he was to like trust the Eldians before this, I just have this sinking feeling that what if this experience for him just kind of ruined all of that.
Right.
And like maybe after this he won't be able to trust the Eldians the way he did before, and he won't be able to help a potential diplomatic solution. Like that would suck.
It would suck. Humans are fickle. I wouldn't blame him. Well, I would. Well, it's hard to say. Like, I think it's possible that he does another 180 and it's just like, okay, nope, Eldians are evil because of this.
Right.
But maybe he sees this, and instead of getting eaten, they run off the cliff and go help the monster, the centipede. And maybe he sees that as okay, they're being controlled, like they don't have any choice in the matter.
Right.
But at the same time, seeing something like that transform in front of your eyes, that could be pretty scarring.
For sure. And I mean, it's always, ever since the beginning of the story, it's always been like made very clear just how terrifying the Titans are, even if they're not necessarily going after you. Just seeing a Titan in the flesh is horrifying.
True.
But I did like your idea that maybe the fact that he sees that the Titans are going to help the centipede, like if he maybe there is some good to come of that. Hopefully. That's like the only really reason I can think, unless Isayama's going to pull something out of his hat. I mean, maybe correct. I don't know. Yeah.
Do you think it would that whole thing would be kind of for naught, or would it just be kind of just a psych moment? Like he just wanted to play with the reader's emotions, having Mueller and Lionheart understand each other, or however you pronounce his name.
Well, I think it would be. I feel like regardless of where Secretary Miller ends up, like in his thoughts after this, I'm probably happy with it. Or it depends. Mostly, sure. I prefer that he would be able to get past this and be able to actually cooperate with the Eldians. I think that would be nice, because I mean, even if he did that, it's not like the conflicts between Eldians and non-Eldians would be solved in a day. Even if he does end up on their side, kind of, it's still going to take generations probably to to actually get over this. So I do think it would be nice to see just the light at the end of the tunnel, just kind of with him as one of those little lights that will be able to help Eldia's future. But I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
Reiner's fighting the centipede, and Armin is fighting Eren.
Hey!
So we got like multiple action scenes going on kind of at the same time here.
Okay. About Reiner, I like how he's just like, bring it, come on! You can't get past me, the Armor Titan, aka the real Wall Titan. But I Reiner has really grown on me since we did our whole Marley deep dive, and
Yay.
it's nice to see him in this moment, kind of taking a last stand, and that
Hellos, yeah, yeah.
Helos moment that people want, it could still be a possibility. It won't be Aaron's head, but it could be the centipede or something like that.
Right.
It all depends on what exactly goes down after the yeah, in the next chapter with the aftermath of this one, but it's still a possibility. I also like his opponent, the centipede, in that it's a lot more intelligent than I thought going into this.
Hmm.
I mean, I understand it's has some sort of thought or thinking going on in that it just wants to survive and multiply and whatnot, but the fact that it knows how to protect itself and it understands that there are its seed close by, I don't know. It's kind of it's a little bit surprising, and I guess I underestimated the thing a little bit, but it goes to show when you have an wild animals back behind a wall, it'll pull out all sorts of everything it can do to survive.
Definitely. Yeah. It's pretty terrifying because it's such an
Mm-hmm.
unknown. It's such a like an alien being kind of like
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes the centipede scary, I feel, because it's just such an otherworldly thing.
Yeah.
I mean titans are supernatural as well, but this the
Mm-hmm.
centipede is like on a different level.
Yeah. I agree.
And yeah, Armin fighting Aaron, pretty
Whew.
cool. I really liked like the one page full image of them, just
Yeah.
seeing them from the ground, just looking up at them.
Oh
Like the sense
gosh.
of scale there is like amazing.
It really is. I mean, reading this and coming up to this point, did you ever think we would have a colossal versus colossal fight? Did you ever think we would have that?
Well, first of all, no, and second of all,
No.
being those two colossals being Armin and Aaron, definitely
yeah,
no.
yeah, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, gosh, these guys are the best of friends.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Damn.
it's heavy stuff. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
so glad we are at this point where we are because it is entertaining and unique.
Yeah.
But not that it has to be unique to be amazing. But
But it is.
it is unique
Yeah.
and it is amazing. My goodness, like what an amazing story he's written so far.
Yeah. Oh my god. And do you want to talk a little bit about Jean and Connie's and Gabby's Titan forums?
Sure.
First of all, my favorite is Jean's
Yeah.
because it's like,
Same.
well, he has like the same kind of squinty eyes, and then like
Mm-hmm.
his eyes in combination with this really wide Titan mouth that he has now,
Mm.
just makes him look so creepy and a little bit funny. But I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely like that is one horrifying looking Titan he's got there. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it kind of reminds me of the Joker a little bit with
Oh yeah.
how far his mouth is. Like if Joker cuts open his mouth, the Dark Knight version.
Right.
So it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. I was a little disappointed not to see a horse face going on here,
Oh come
but
on.
I mean, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just hey, it's the memes. I'm just going with the memes. No,
Yeah.
I don't. I actually don't understand. I think I've said this before. I don't understand the whole horse genre comparison. So I just kind of go with everyone's saying.
I think the only reason why ECM even started making those jokes about Jean, or he had
Uh-huh.
some characters making, I mean, Aaron and maybe, I can't remember
Right.
who else, if anyone else made those remarks about Jean, but I think the reason for it is because Jean has somewhat of a long face.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing.
Fair.
That's the only thing.
Fair.
So, like, he doesn't actually look like a horse, it's just he has
No.
somewhat of a long face.
Okay.
I think that's really the only thing. But Gabby's Titan just has like the angriest expression on her face, which I think is very fitting for her.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. And Connie's Titan, I thought like the one like design part in his Titan that I thought was kind of unsettling is kind of how his cheeks are like kind of
Semi-visible.
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Like-
it's like the skin is like
Very thin.
halfly torn or
Oh, or
something.
that too. Yeah. Actually, I
Like-
think You're
you
more right. Yeah.
you can like see through the cheeks,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it's really unsettling to me.
Indeed.
But yeah, and obviously, we see Annie and Peak joining Reiner against the Centipede, and at this point, the stakes are high. For these two, especially, who just sort of more or less reunited with their dads. Well, Peak did
Mm-hmm.
completely, and Annie almost did.
Yeah.
And they have that so fresh in their minds right now, and it just makes this fight against the Centipede so emotional.
I didn't think the stakes could get any. Well, I don't know. Like I'm just glad. I'm just glad these we have. It's really epic to have this moment and the stakes as high as they are, and
Uh huh.
seeing the basically all the Titans that are available are here. Except for the Warhammer and the Beast Titan, and I don't. It's just it's really cool to see all of them fighting together, except for the Attack Titan. But yeah, I don't know. It's a really nice send off eventually for the series, I think.
Absolutely, this is beautiful. So I guess now it's about time to talk about Mikasa's dream again. Maybe a
Mm-hmm.
bit more in depth if we feel like it.
Yeah. First off, I want to talk about the headaches
Uh huh.
at the very least. Just kind of discuss with you what that could possibly be meaning.
Right.
We were in the discords, and I had brought up the headaches and was thinking like, what could they mean? And I think you brought up the fact that it could just be PTSD. And I was thinking at the time, yeah, you know what? It could just be her memories of that coming back, and they just kind of cause a post traumatic stress.
Hmm.
But after this, I don't think PTSD is a possibility, or not as much as it was. I can't tell you for sure why they're happening. I'd be impressed if anybody could at this point. But I, I I think it's possible we get an actual explanation for them in this last chapter.
Mm.
As to what that is, I'm not sure. It could be something that Ymir says, or something that story brings up, or maybe something that Mikasa herself pontificates about. I'm not entirely sure, but allow me to just throw out a few suggestions of what it could be.
Right.
Were the headaches meant to stop Mikasa from doing what she was about to do? Behead Eren. What was it, kind of a defense mechanism that Eren was putting onto her somehow through the founding Titan?
Hmm.
Or was it to encourage her with these memories in order to get her to do what she did? Not necessarily from Eren, but maybe from Ymir, or for whatever reason. Does Mikasa have some sort of Titan power through her Ackerman line? We know that they can't turn into Titans, as was proven even more so here
Yeah.
with the spinal fluid being a thing. So yeah, does the Ackerman line, at least for her, Mikasa, have some sort of power there? Who knows?
I think Acromans do have at least one thing that they definitely have, like a special ability that I guess is somehow pathsy, is that they're able
Mm-hmm.
to react to things sort of before they happen.
Yeah,
That is
true.
that is one thing that we know that the Acromans are able to do.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. And maybe we'll get more clarification on that potentially.
Maybe.
Perhaps Ymir is forcing these memories. I guess this is kind of similar to what I said earlier. Ymir forced these memories on to Mikasa in order to get this ending or some sort of objective. I'm not entirely sure.
Hmm.
More on her later.
Yeah.
But and now here's my final crackpot theory. I know I'm putting out a lot there, but honestly, this is just me talking.
Go for it.
So my final crackpot theory about these headaches. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Mikasa's bloodline actually has some sort of royalty in it. Now, hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the Azumabito came to Paradis when they first came here and was good friends with King Carfres, and they were good friends with it, and so they were left on the island with them. Could it be that one of the Azumabito and Karlfrit's descendants had a child,
Mm.
and that child ended up carrying the royal bloodline with them into it wouldn't be too many generations because only 100 years, but at least into the next generation, which could technically or could possibly be Mikasa's mother. And so Mikasa's mother had that royal bloodline in her, and she passed that on to Mikasa. So she has the Ackerman bloodline, the Azumabito bloodline, and a little bit of the royal bloodline. And so maybe I know, yeah, that's not even the craziest part.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So, so when Mikasa kissed Eren, she touched skin to skin, just like how Eren fist bumped his stepmother and was able to get activate the founding Titan's powers there.
Yeah.
What if, because of the kiss on the lips, I know I kind of spoiled the ending. I'm sorry.
Uh,
Because the kiss on the lips, that contact, she was able to activate some sort of founding Titan power, um, and that's how she was able to get those headaches, or at least maybe even communicate with Ymir potentially. So that's my crackpot theory. I don't put any coinage or any sort of money on this, but it was a thought that came to me, and it's really far fetched, and maybe puts too much focus on Mikasa. But I threw it out there. So
interesting. Interesting.
you don't even have to address it. I just wanted to put it out there.
Right.
So what do you think? What do you think about the headaches?
The headaches is like one of the biggest things where I'm just at a loss for the most part. I feel like they are probably somehow Ackerman related. Or, man, I'm not even entirely sure about that because, I mean, we've never seen any other Ackerman with that. So,
Right. Right.
yeah, well, as I said, I'm kind of at a loss at it.
Fair.
It could be somehow related to her kind of going against her instincts, maybe.
That's
Or
what Aaron was saying, huh?
right. Oh yeah, that is what Aaron was saying. And actually, I think Aaron was wrong, so I don't think that's the case in that case. Yeah, this one's hard. This one's tough. I'm not really sure. I haven't given it too much thought, but I
Understandable.
think it's a tricky one.
Yeah. I mean, it's entirely possible that it doesn't get fully explained. And would I be disappointed if that's a fact? I think it's one of those things that can be open to interpretation. I would like clarification on it, but if it
Yeah.
doesn't happen, it's not going to ruin Mikasa's story or the story overall.
Right. No, and I think this is also a thing that I would probably also prefer to get at least some sort of explanation for, to be honest, because it is. I mean, it's been such a like consistent thing throughout the whole manga, so it would be nice to know just why it has been happening.
Right. And one more thing about the headaches is that Mikasa's not the only one who gets these kind of headaches. Aaron has also gotten these headaches back in the first chapter when he was remembering when his dad gave him the power and he ate Grisha.
Oh.
He had a headache when he was trying to recall that, and it was very similar to Mikasa's visions and headaches.
I have forgotten about that. Interesting.
So, I, is that some sort of connection there somehow? Is Mikasa having visions of memories of an alternate reality that she's trying to suppress, or I have no idea. Is someone trying to push these memories onto these hosts at that time, and that's why they have the headaches? Anyway,
Right.
I don't expect. Well, I would like there to be an explanation, but regardless, I think what we have here is pretty good.
Right. And I mean, actually, like, I guess one thing that I can say is that if it is related to, like you mentioned, like alternate realities, and there has been a lot of fans speculating that the dream that Mikasa has in this chapter is an alternate reality that is real. But it's just another separate timeline, kind of. If that is the case, then it kind of also it's in that case I feel like it's kind of similar to, I don't know if you've read it, but the Lost Girls spin-off.
Oh, I didn't read that.
It's only a 2 volume book or series, but it's
Hmm.
basically the first half, or the first book is focused on Annie, and the second one is focused on Mikasa, or vice versa.
Hmm.
But I think it's first Annie and then Mikasa. But basically, in the second book, which is focused on Mikasa, it it deals with like different alternate timelines in a
Really?
weird kind of wacky way. I never considered it canon. I don't think it should be considered canon, um, but it is very wacky in that kind of way. And this chapter
Okay.
reminded me of that. Uh,
Oh.
so I mean, I'm not. Maybe it should be considered more canonical than
Hmm.
I gave it credit for when I first read it. I mean, it's kind of, sort of ish old by now, but um, and it's written by it's written by a different person, so
Oh,
I,
okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
that kind of gets messy when it's written by someone else, you know.
right. So I know I still don't think it's actually canon, but
Mm-hmm.
it is interesting to see those sorts of similarities, and if that is the case with the headaches, then yeah, that would be really interesting. Like if maybe I mean, because I'm sure ECM had some communication with the person who wrote Lost Girls,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe it was
Yeah.
something that he gave them a little bit of a hint on
Suggested.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm.
could be interesting, but
Definitely.
yeah, uh, getting into that though about Mikasa's dream, what it
Mm-hmm.
is and all. Personally, I don't think it is an alternate reality. I don't.
Okay.
I personally, I think it is totally just kind of her ideal
Mm-hmm.
fantasy
Mm.
or ideal reality of what
Mm-hmm.
never came to be.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's it's hard because at first I did think it was just her ideal reality, like her thinking clearly about if I had made this choice to run away with Aaron, this is what would have happened, and we could have been so happy.
Hmm.
And I was kind of okay with seeing that, but then it connected directly to chapter 1 with the so long Aaron,
Hmm.
and that's when I started to have my questions about wait, is this an alternate reality that Aaron was able to see somehow? Or is this just symbolic of what actually happened? I it's hard.
Yeah.
Um, I think of the two, I think I'm more inclined to believe that it's just her fantasy, what could have been,
Right.
rather than an alternate reality, because we haven't really experienced too much of these alternate timelines.
Right.
However, I guess that's technically not true because back when Aaron was having those I think he was going into paths. I think he was going into paths with Zeke, and there was all those different shards. And one of those shards is the Attack on High School
Yeah.
thing, and that could just be a joke. Isayama and other mangaka, they do that all the time.
Right.
Just kind of subtle jokes.
Hmm.
But that's obviously stirred up some fan theories and even my own thinking.
Oh yeah.
And so I wondered if there is alternate realities, it's very much possible that somehow Aaron has this ability to see these different outcomes and see these different realities for whatever reason. But again, that's just so almost far fetched at this point that unless we see it confirmed in this last chapter, I can't really accept it. Other than I can't accept it being an alternate reality, but I can accept it being just her Mikasa's ideal of present.
Right. And I kind of feel like an alternate timeline or alternate reality kind of it makes it in my mind it makes it too complicated. Like
Yeah.
we don't need that kind of stuff really in this story, I don't think.
Hmm.
So I guess we're sort of on the same page there.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
But in her dream, she sees Aaron telling her to get rid of the scarf after he's gone because he wants
Hmm.
her to be able to forget about him easier and for her to be free without
Oh man.
needing to think about him, sort of. And I think even though this was in the dream, I do think it
Hmm.
is what Aaron would have said
Yeah.
in
Oh
the
yeah.
real as well. And as proof of that, we actually knew that he told Louise to dispose of the scarf.
Hmm.
So we knew that
Hmm.
he didn't want Mikasa to have the scarf. He didn't want her to have something to remember him by after he was gone.
Right.
But then Mikasa goes against what Eren would have wanted. She actually, she puts
Hmm.
the scarf on, and she makes the active choice of choosing to remember him with the scarf. And I think that was her, like, the fact that she made her own choice in that, and she decided to keep the scarf and to keep it as something to remember him by, is proof of her being free in a completely different way than Eren intended for her to become free.
Hmm.
And I love that. I love that, how just the way how that proves that Mikasa is free and she isn't controlled by Eren in any way.
Yeah.
At least not anymore.
No, yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think him telling her that he hates her was trying to manipulate her feelings,
Yeah.
uh, and trying to use her. And so, in any way, if anything, that was making her a slave to him. But her making this choice for herself to not forget him,
Mm.
it it runs so well with her character,
Yeah.
and it calls back to so many things. But it shows that she is an independent person. It's not her Ackerman bloodline. It's love, and
Mm.
I like that. And it's interesting to get this point from Eren, even if it is just her dream, I guess you could say, in that Eren kind of views love as a prison almost, or at least for Mikasa, in that he feel like Mikasa can't live her life, can't be free unless she lets go of him, unless she doesn't hang on to him anymore.
Right.
And it's such an interesting concept that he literally believes that she's a prisoner to love, which is kind of funny because isn't there like a song called "Prisoner to Love" or whatever? It's
Uh,
a phrase.
it sounds like it could be.
It probably could be. And I don't. Usually, you see love is so free and good, and here Aaron almost sounds like love is holding Mikasa back
Mm.
from living her life, at least love for him.
Right.
And Mikasa says, "Nope, like, no."
Yeah.
Like she makes the choice herself
Uh huh.
that she is going to love Aaron, and eventually do what she does. But interesting to me is, for his entire character, it's been about freedom, even at this moment, either freedom for himself or freedom for others. And we see the bird here, and there was a whole bird theory going on that maybe somehow the bird's eyes were connected to Titan or whatever. I maybe even throw that theory out. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. That would be quite the twist for the last chapter. I just think that the birds in general have usually been in connection with freedom and being free from your cage,
For sure.
whatever that cage may be, and whether it be Wall or for Aaron, him thinking that love was Mikasa's cage, but in reality, well, I mean, you could even say she wanted to be in that cage and still be free. Um, I don't like to think of it that way. I think it's more that um, her love makes her free. That maybe that kind of cheesy thing, and that she makes this choice for herself, to live in a world. Well, to keep living so that she can remember him,
Yeah.
to keep living so she can love him even if he's dead, even if he's gone. I think that's really precious, and it really calls back to some of her beginning chapters here. Let me pull this up. I took a couple pictures. When she's at the in Tross at the crossroad between two titans, and it looks like she's about to die, she says, "I'm sorry, Aaron. I can't give up. If I die now, I won't be able to remember you. So no matter what, I'm going to win. Whatever I have to do, I'm going to live."
Yeah.
And I think that ties in again. I mean, it's a little different than this situation because she's fighting Aaron here, but it's still she's going to live so she can keep remembering him, keep loving him.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I like
Exactly.
that connection. Do you mind if I go back real quick? Unless you had something you want to say there.
I guess, well, just about the birds.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
I, I also agree. Like, absolutely, they are the symbol for freedom.
Mm.
But at the same time, I think it's still entirely possible that the eyes of the birds can serve for eyes for just for Ymir, just kind of her a link
Oh,
to her to see what's going on in the physical
hmm.
world or in the real world.
But why? How
Well,
does she have this connection to the birds?
because the isn't the centipede thing referred to as like the origins of all organic life or something like that, something like that.
Was it?
Maybe
I can't remember.
maybe I'm wrong on that, but
Well, maybe I'm
regardless,
wrong.
if that is the case, I feel like it could make sense, and it was also play along nicely with Norse mythology, which there has been several references to throughout the story where uh, Odin has two birds, two ravens that he can basically
Oh,
he can see everything that they see,
I've
and
heard that. Hmm.
um,
Yeah, that's true.
so I think it's
That's
still I
true.
think that's a possibility. It's probably not a major thing, but I think it would be a nice way for her to be able to see what's going on outside.
Right. It could just represent Ymir is watching over them in
Yeah,
this moment or any of those moments. So that's a good point. So I guess bird theory in that sense is could be real.
could be. But yeah, feel free to go back to wherever you want to talk
Yeah, I
about.
mean it's really brief. I just think it's again kind of gives Mikasa's character a little more, and it's you get the wide shot of the cabin that Aaron and Mikasa are living in,
Mm,
and they have the table outside. It just reminds me so much of her home back with her mom and dad, like her real mom and dad in the forest, kind of
mm.
in they were in an openish field and had their cabin. I think they had a table outside as well. So I, I guess kind of a callback to her first family and
Mm.
what her ideal family would be like if they could run away together.
Yeah, and I mean, it is
So
the kind of family life that she knows, not only with the similarity of the setting, but also with like kind of being on the run or living in hiding because her parents were both
yeah,
like on the run due to being
mm-hmm.
you know Oriental slash
Ackerman
Ackerman.
and
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think for her to have the fantasy in this kind of way it makes sense
yeah,
because it's what she knows.
for sure.
So getting back out of the dream into the real world here, where the fighting is happening, Mikasa is putting on the scarf. Well, we've talked about that a bit,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and they are able to determine before they see Aaron in the mouth that he is in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have an explanation to this. I just wanted to see if you did.
Okay. My explanation is that this is all just for convenience sake for the story. No, no. My 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 thinking is the head is the only possible place it could be based on what was left over from the freakish abomination that they just exploded, and so I guess they just automatically assumed, okay, it's got to be in the head if it's not anywhere in the body, right?
Yeah,
So that's my thinking.
exactly. Yeah, since obviously it is the same head. It's just
Yeah.
got a new body, and they blew off the neck earlier, so they know he's not in the nape. So he's
Mm-hmm.
got to be in the head, yeah. And it makes sense also to assume that he's somewhere in the front of the head, like away from the neck, kind of, I guess. So I
Mm.
guess the mouth makes sense, sort of.
Yeah, I guess so.
So yeah, at first I was like, wait, how did he know that?
Yeah.
But after
Well,
having given
yeah,
it
it
some
took me a little
thought,
bit. It took me a little
uh,
bit to think about it.
yeah. But yeah, it adds up.
Hmm. Indeed. I like how Levi is the one to kick open his teeth, he knock out his teeth.
Yeah.
I guess he didn't kick it. He throws the thunder spear. But
I wish he had kicked with his feet. Just one last kick at Aaron.
this is as close as we're gonna get.
Yeah. But yeah, I also like to see like even though it's not a lot, it's still like a little bit of like this. It's enough of action from Levi. 'Cause we know he's not super fit to
Hundred
fight,
percent right.
but this was good. It was good to see him doing something here.
Even Armin was helping out at the. I mean, well, obviously he's helping out, but he knows that Mikasa has to do it. But he kind of hold Aaron in position,
Right.
so that they can get at his face. So even though he's getting demolished, I mean, Aaron's obviously the better fighter, but
Mm.
um, it worked out in this case where Aaron was focusing on Armin, and then able
Yeah.
to, they were able to do what they did.
Yeah, Armin knows what to do. He's holding his shoulder and his head in place like
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah, that is smart. Obviously, we knew he was smart.
Yeah, of course.
But yes, then Mikasa comes into the Titan mouth, and I just gotta say first of all that for Eren's life to end inside of a Titan mouth is kind of poetic in a way, because
Oh, I didn't think about that.
because that was when he, where he became a Titan the first, or well, at least properly,
Uh
uh,
huh.
was in a Titan mouth or inside of a Titan.
Yeah.
He was supposed to die in the Titan mouth in the beginning of the story, and now
Uh-huh.
finally, finally,
Finally, he did.
he did. So I thought that was cool.
That is, yeah. Mikasa's smiling like she is as she's about
Right.
to cut his head. You know,
Mm,
as I was reading this, tears were welling up in my eyes, and I see this moment, and it's like, oh, they get to see each other. She's
hmm
about to cut his head off, and yeah, it's heartbreaking. But before we go to the final page,
Yeah.
I wonder, do you get anything from Aaron's expression here? It's pretty blank.
Like he's
Um,
looking up at her in the last
I guess
moments,
I guess I guess he's yeah. I guess you could say that looking up at her because here he looks like he's looking down
and
and
in the
then
very like as his head is being
chopped.
severed off, yeah, he
Kind of
is.
looks
It
up.
looks like his
True,
pupils are more focused on her
true,
in the very very
true.
last second there,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say exactly, what's
Mm-hmm.
in his head right there.
Right. So I mean, I can't even honestly. I don't know if I can even say Aaron has any sort of these romantic feelings exactly for her.
Mm.
I think he does. Like obviously being an Aaron Mikasa shipper, I think that yes, he does have these feelings.
Okay.
I mean, at this point, it probably doesn't really matter. He's a monstrosity of his former self, and and what is he gonna do? Have hard eyes in his eyes, heart pupils? Like no. So I don't know. Like it. I guess I'm guessing I'm talking about those people who aren't sure if you know these two are actually lovers or not.
Mm.
Eh, I mean, we won't know. We can't really say for sure until the very end happens. But I really do think that Aaron Mikasa is in game. In my opinion, it's the OTP. I mean, I don't think he's gonna
Ooh.
come back to life and they're gonna make babies and have a happy ever after like that. I
Right.
don't know. I
Right.
don't think that. But I do think that if Aaron were able to find another way and not well, I guess going back to Mikasa's potential reality, that would have been possible for Aaron if, everything else would have been solved as well. I think he would have been okay with that if, you know, everyone else had their freedom as well.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Maybe. Although I'm not at all on board on this ship anymore. Not to say I
Mm.
was completely on board before, but I was at
Mm-hmm.
least cool with it. But after this
Okay.
chapter, personally, I feel like the ship has sunk entirely, and that's not just because Aaron is
What?
dead. It's not just because Aaron is dead. It's also well, it is. I guess it is largely because of the fact that Aaron is dead. But it's like it's so like this is the end of Aaron. So at this point, we know that nothing more can come from Aaron. And
Mm-hmm.
my issue with the ship prior to this chapter was that it was incredibly one-sided, at least as far as I had been able to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Mikasa is heads over heels for Eren, but Eren never
Mm-hmm.
really gave that much of a hint of having romantic feelings for Mikasa.
Well, until we got to this final arc, then we started to finally see that there may have he may have something because he asks her, "What do you really think of me?" I mean, someone who thinks of Mikasa as just a sister doesn't ask, doesn't ask, "What do you think of me?" Like what am I to you? Like that's not something you ask a sister, right?
Well,
So
no, no, you could, because obviously he would have been able to pick up on her feeling something for him, so he would want to know what that was. I could see it that way.
Hmm. Yeah, I do see what you're saying. I go back to that chapter though, and
Yeah.
he's blushing as he says that. Or maybe he's just flustered. I mean, it
I
is kind of an embarrassing thing to ask.
True. I mean, yeah, it could be interpreted both ways. I imagine.
Maybe he's not blushing. Actually, I don't think he's blushing.
I just don't think Aaron like had that kind of mindset ever. Like ever since he saw his mom get eaten in front of him, I don't think he was able to ever really focus on any sort of romance with anybody.
Oh, I agree. I do agree that that has not been on his mind whatsoever. But I think because he finally realized that Mikasa has these feelings for him, that he felt like because what he did made her a prisoner
Mm.
to him. I do think that kind of makes you start thinking, oh wait, can I view this person as a romantic partner? In my opinion, and I think
Hmm.
that's definitely something that he was thinking about, and that's why he asked that question in 123.
Maybe. At the same time, though, I also don't see if he did have actual romantic feelings for her, he
Hmm.
wouldn't want her to forget about him. Like, why would he want her to forget about him if
Because it
he?
causes her pain.
But then he doesn't know her well enough because that's not
Huh?
true. And if he doesn't know
Oh,
her that well, then why? Like, then I don't ship it. I guess.
I mean, I don't think you have to know a person perfectly in order to be in a relationship,
No, no, for sure.
or shit, or in a ship.
For
But I I think he's just so obsessed with this idea of freedom and not making anybody a slave that that's how he just sees or he wants the best or he wants freedom for everybody. And so anytime he sees anybody he thinks might be um, controlled by something, then he wants to let them free somehow.
yeah.
So I don't know. I think personally I think um, we do get a little bit more evidence to the Eren Mikasa ship. I'm not gonna say it's for sure. Did I say it was OTP? I maybe I
Uh
did.
huh. You did.
Well, okay then. Jeez, I think for me, it. I, you're putting me at a corner here.
I'm sorry.
I don't know where to go. I still think that because he cares so much about her freedom in that sense, I think that means that he does have these romantic feelings for her. Not so much that he wants to have a family with her, although I mean maybe he does. I don't know. It's I guess I'm not as confident in my answer as I was before. I guess I'll say that, but
Gotcha.
I
That's fair.
I do think that it's reasonable to think that this ship is true. I am a little put off by saying the ship has sunk altogether.
I'm sorry. It's just what I think.
Oh, that's fair. If you think that, that's totally
To
fine.
be fair, I was never completely on board with it anyway.
Hmm.
Or maybe at the very beginning of the story, but like for a long, long time, I have not really been on board.
Fair.
So
Fair.
we are on different boats, I
Different
guess.
pages, different boats there,
Uh huh.
but at the very least, we enjoyed this moment between them, right?
For sure. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I want to talk about this for a bit. When Mikasa says "see you later," obviously,
Oh my
it
gosh!
it's been building up to this ever since the very first chapter. It's
Finally,
wonderful,
finally.
and I think we were all pretty certain that it would happen. And like after the previous chapter,
Yeah.
we were all pretty certain it would happen in some way
Mm-hmm.
in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so happy with how it happened. And so my favorite thing about this whole thing, or about this whole scene, is that I think it's such a big thing for Mikasa to not only be able to say goodbye to Eren like in the real world as she does.
Mm-hmm.
Like that alone is a big thing. But also she's able to say goodbye to him in her dream world. It's like the way I see that is kind of like her being able to sort of let go of him in a way that she hasn't been able to do before. Her love for him is still there just as much as it was before, but she is able to let go of him so that she's not kind of she isn't as obsessed, I guess, as she used to be, not as clung to him as she was before. That's kind of how I read this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that she's doing it both in the real world and in her in inside of her head in this dream reality. It kind of feels to me like, yeah, it's a big step for her to be able to be more independent and say goodbye to Aaron, and both physically and kind of spiritually, or sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I do see what you're saying, and I think I interpret it in that way as well, but maybe just slightly different.
Hmm?
In that, I think, yeah, this is her being able to let go of Aaron and um, also accept the fact that she loves him. She makes this choice herself. For me, that's the big thing is that she's making
Yeah.
this choice for herself. I do agree as well that there is a bit of letting go, but at the same time, her professing her love. I guess she doesn't say "I love you," but it's basically similar. Basically that
Uh-huh.
her professing that is showing that she could still be free and still be in love with him
Yeah.
without him being there, or without it looking like she doesn't have a independence or whatnot.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily believe that she is letting go per se, in the way that she's not loving him anymore or forgetting about him.
No, that's not at all what I meant. I still think she loves him just as much as before. I just think that she's able to let go of him in a way that is good for her character to be more independent and not rely so much on him. Because that's basically what she's been doing the whole story. I feel like Mikasa has had two major character flaws throughout the story, which I've been enjoying to follow along with, but it's been
Mm-hmm.
kind of flaws of hers. One of them being that she is maybe, a little too obsessed with Aaron, has been one thing. And the other being that she doesn't exactly, well, she hasn't been able to come to terms with her feelings for Aaron.
Mm,
And she has struggled with figuring out exactly how she feels, even though it's been
right.
obvious. It's been pretty obvious since the start that she has been, she has had romantic feelings.
Not to some people. Some people think it's just a family relationship.
Right. Well, yeah, sure.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think you can say that anymore.
Especially not now. But for her, she hasn't been able to really
Right.
come to terms with that until maybe very recently.
Mm-hmm.
So those two, I think both of those two character flaws are, well, she's able to get by them, or to fix them in this chapter, in two different ways. The way that she has been relying too much on Aaron, or not relying exactly, but she has been too obsessed with him, too kind of clingy, sort of. That part is resolved with her being able to say goodbye to him, both in the real world and in her fantasy world. Because I think that the goodbye in the fantasy world symbolizes that, yeah, now she's able to be more independent herself and act more. I mean, she already started doing that leading up to this moment, but I think that this was an important moment for her to kind of in that way be able to say goodbye to him, but still having the same amount of love for him. And then in the final panel when she kisses him,
Mm-hmm.
that I think symbolizes that she has also come to terms with her feelings for him. She at
Right.
this point knows for sure that, yeah, it is love, it is romantic feelings. So I think both of those character struggles of hers have kind of come to an end here and
Right.
have been resolved in this at the end of this chapter.
I agree with that. I guess I'm hung up on the fact of being able to let him go, because isn't
Oh
that what Aaron wanted her to do? Is let go of me, but she says, "Sorry, Aaron, I can't."
no, he wanted her to forget him.
Right? Isn't that's the same thing as letting him go?
I don't think so. I think there's a difference.
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
for Mikasa, especially in Mikasa's case, because she has been so overly obsessed with Aaron in an unhealthy way.
Right.
Being able to let go of that is what I'm talking about.
Right. That's fair, and I 100% agree with you about the love aspect. I think her being able to come to terms with her feelings for him is there, but she's also able to make this choice on her own to, yeah, say goodbye to the one she loves and, take him out like that. So
Yeah,
I really appreciate her character development there. It's
absolutely.
it's all been building up to this moment and to this final panel with that kiss.
Hmm.
All of the, I guess we can put in the headaches, all the headaches, all of the moments that she's had in the Trost arc, and especially these past few arcs, or just I guess this past arc, huh? With Louise and the scarf and the
Right.
table scene. It's just been perfectly built up for this moment. And this was the moment I was waiting for.
Mm.
Um, I remember we discussed like how does he wrap this up, or I'm not getting enough from her, and I was
Yeah.
just always I'm not worried, secretly worried. I had confidence that Isayama would wrap it up well, and lo
Yeah.
and behold, he did.
In Isayama we trust,
Indeed,
and it's not in vain.
indeed. No, I mean, never did I imagine we would get Mikasa kissing the beheaded corpse, the head
Right.
of Eren. Like that is something I never would have imagined, but I mean, it's almost exactly what I want. Well, not wanted, but I mean, yeah, it's beautiful, and I totally accept it.
Mm.
Um, when I read that moment, if you don't mind moving
Yeah.
on to that,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was overcome with so much conflicting emotions, so many conflicting emotions. And this is true. I was laughing, I was crying, I was kind of cheering, but also mourning. Like it was just so hard to see one Eren die, Mikasa be the one to kill him, and then at the same time, it was so amazing to see them kind of finally meet and have there be that closure for Mikasa, and then have a kiss scene that I never would have expected ever. Yeah, it's one of my favorite moments in the entire manga, and it just swells me up with a lot of emotions. And before I go on, the part where I was laughing was at Ymir's face.
Oh, gotcha.
That's that's what I was laughing about. Not only this, well, the zaniness of the whole thing, where they're inside a mouth, Ymir is just watching them smiling, and she's kissing a head. Like, it's just kind of funny. So crying, laughing, and everything was happening. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, it is such a like I love the kind of morbidity of that image. Just how it's so fitting for Attack on Titan, I think.
yeah, right. I said this in Discord that final panel I think fits perfectly with Mikasa's theme of "This is a cruel world and yet so beautiful." I think it fits perfectly.
Really does. Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, that it's been a running thing throughout the series. I mean, especially Mikasa in the early parts, but also the previous chapter with Zeke, he was also able to see that.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah, absolutely. And well, so I guess since we touched on Ymir here a little bit in this final panel,
She's an Eren Mikasa shipper. Just
uh,
saying. I'm in good company.
yeah, you are, you are. But last month, when we talked about the previous chapter, we speculated about the possibility that Ymir herself, like she specifically being directly responsible for paths working the way it does. We had this talk about maybe paths working how it does isn't a result directly of the centipede, but rather that the centipede could have given Ymir certain abilities, and with those, she chose to make paths work the way it does. We kind of speculated along those lines. And also last chapter or last month on our podcast, I also speculated a little bit about how Ymir possibly, she desires like family bonds, like things that, and basically, if that was the case, that would explain why she made paths to work the way she does, because she desires
Right.
connections to other humans. So basically, basically connecting with others is a really important thing for Ymir, was what I kind of speculated on a little bit. And thinking back to other chapters as well, we have seen, in 120, 2, was it when we saw her backstory, she was looking kind of, she was looking at people like there was a wedding, like she was looking at those
Kind of
characters.
fondly.
Right, exactly, yeah, and like there's people making a connection, and I think that's something that she values a lot, kind of like Eren values freedom. She values
Mm.
connections with other, between people. And so
Although she did free those pigs.
she did free the pigs. So I guess I mean sure, freedom could, although that could be also, that could also be a red herring. Um
Ah,
or
it could be.
or it's true that she also has a strong like value for freedom. But what I was going to get to with this is that I read a Reddit post by Renan. Renan is the guy on the You Hear Big Girls Discord server. He shared a Reddit post that he made after he had read the previous month's chapter, and I just read it recently, even though it's almost a month old. In his blog or post anyway, he wrote some interesting speculations that were sort of similar to my ideas of her uh, wanting, like basically using paths to connect with others, and how she values that kinds of family bonds kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But he dove a bit deeper
Okay.
than I did on the podcast. And basically in his theory, he said that, so back when Eren embraced Ymir and he was able to get her on his side, at the time it felt very much like that was because Eren's promise of freedom spoke to her, and that she wanted to be saved and set free. And I still don't, I'm still not discarding that possibility entirely.
Mm-hmm.
But after recently, that was
Mm-hmm.
what I thought. But having read Renan's speculation on that, I think I have changed my mind on it. And basically, here's what he thinks: is that this, well, what I was talking about, the connection to other people and the connection between people, how she values that so much, was the reason why she went along with Eren, because Eren was able to connect with her in a very
Mm.
strong way, and he was willing and able to connect with her there. So I think that was the reason that she was willing to help him to do what he was wanting to do. And so in the previous chapter, we had Zeke and Armin in paths. Uh, those two characters were connecting with each other right there,
Mm.
and we saw Ymir there, and she seemed to be cool with them making these plans against the rumbling.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't intervene, and I think that would also work along with that she saw that those two people make a connection with each other, and she allowed that because, yeah, connections is something that she values a lot.
Yeah. That's a yeah good theory about it all, and I think it could definitely go down that way. Uh, yeah, you look back to that chapter where he embraces her.
Mm.
I think it's because he truly tries to understand her, that she's not a god, she's not a devil, she's just a little girl.
Right, exactly, and it's the connection aspect of that.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think freedom does play a part in it. I think she is a slave to her own bloodline, in that sense. But I think it's also, yeah, I think there also could be that connection there as well.
Yeah, but and Zeke also said in the previous chapter that Ymir cares a lot about the world, and
Right.
like maybe she doesn't
For some
hold
reason.
as, right, but so maybe she doesn't have as big of a grudge, against the world as we were made to think. I think it's entirely possible that, maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe the reason why she has kept up, following the orders of the royal founders, is because of the connection that she feels to them through paths, or through other means,
Mm-hmm.
possibly.
Honestly, I haven't been entirely on board with the she hates the world, so she wants to destroy it kind of thing. Although this definitely seems to be the what maybe Isayama was trying to make the reader believe. But I never got that exact feeling because, you know, it never seemed like that was her goal, because we don't understand what her goal is, and at least completely. So to me, it didn't seem like she would think the world is the issue here at all. I always thought that she, speaking of freedom, I thought she would just want freedom from paths in general. But then why go along with Eren? I think the reason why she would go along with him being, some sort of connection, I think that's a reasonable way to go about it. However, no matter what it is, I do think we will get some sort of explanation for why she is acting the way she is in the next chapter.
Yeah.
Because without, or if Armin didn't question it or didn't bring it up, then I would be less sure. But the fact that he did that, then that just seems to be a major question that needs to be answered and can't just be left to hang, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And I think, in the last panel here, the fact that Ymir is smiling when she sees Mikasa kissing Eren, I think if we do choose to believe in, how much she values connections between people and those kinds of bonds between people, I think the smile could be because of that, because she sees that kind of strong love that Mikasa has for Eren. And
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it's possible that moving forward now, she might actually want to be able to stop the rumbling and help them just put an end to it, or well, not necessarily the rumbling, but the centipede.
Mm.
Because honestly, at this point,
Oh.
right? Because we know well, the centipede was blown up in the colossal nuclear blast.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what other physical like attack would harm it? Like, it doesn't seem like anything would. But what if Ymir has some kind of
Mm.
path C stuff that she's able to do? I think that might be the
Mm.
only way to
Oh,
bring
that
or
could be interesting.
to end the centipede.
I think that's a good possibility and could be very interesting. Some other ideas I had kind of just are the aftermath of what happens when you behead Aaron like that.
Yeah.
Um, does beheading Aaron just automatically, kill the the centipede?
Mm.
Does it just lose its invincibility? I don't know how that
Hmm.
works, but maybe that's it. Those are my two thought processes in it. It either kind of like shrivels up and dies because Aaron is officially dead, or it loses invincibility and then there's a final, you know, few pages where they squish it for good. I mean, hey, maybe it is Ymir who has to be the one that takes it out in the end. If it's still invincible, like it is, even without Aaron there, which they make it seem like killing Aaron is the only option to kill the centipede. So I'm
Right.
kind of iffy on that.
Yeah.
Um, but still, if that's the case, then yeah, Ymir being the one to take it out would definitely seem like the best possibility in that case.
Yeah. I was also, well, I've also seen a lot of people thinking that killing Eren might just also mean the end of the centipede.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the chapter sort of hinted toward that in a way, or at least the characters fighting Eren
Mm-hmm.
were, well, they decided to go after Eren, but I I feel like the reason they did that, it was mostly just because it was easier. Like, well, they knew how difficult the centipede was to kill after seeing it survive that blast. But Eren
Mm-hmm.
is human, so maybe that's more doable. So they decided to go after the more possible victory first. Could be seen that way.
Yeah, that's possible.
Because, well, personally, I just don't see like I just don't see a logic necessarily for why Eren's death would kill the centipede or weaken it. I don't really see that.
Um, I don't know. I mean, with everything that's going on, it doesn't seem it's too far fetched.
Maybe
Especially
not.
since it wants to connect to Aaron so badly, you know.
Sure, sure.
Because I think part of it probably has to do with that's its hiding place or it's like shell, and that it wants to go back to that.
Right. It has been like inside of the founding Titan
Mm-hmm.
for like forever, basically.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely will learn next chapter though.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's what's so great. All our hypothesizing, we know for a fact. I mean, not every answer, but at the very least, we'll know for sure how this all ends.
Yeah,
So that's very exciting to think about.
totally.
Going back to Ymir, it could go down that Ymir is the one who has to take down the centipede.
Mm.
Some other thoughts I had was, what if this is the moment where Ymir is finally able to talk and express herself to Mikasa or anybody. Maybe she is
Mm.
still able to activate paths and she's able to communicate to all the Eldians somehow.
Right.
Maybe that's too out there because Ymir has never really spoken before. And to be fair, when they had all of those previous Titan shifters come in past last chapter, they weren't able to speak. So maybe Ymir has the same issue where she can't speak either.
Maybe.
Yeah, so maybe that throws that theory out the window. But I'm willing to have that happen because I really would like to see her point of view. But it could just end up being Armin using his big brain power, be like, oh, this is it. Or maybe Mikasa comes up with the answer.
Yeah, I I think regarding Ymir, I'm fine with leaving her as somewhat of an enigma in
Okay.
like regards to how her brain works, or like how her,
Well, yeah.
like the stuff that she, well, the reasons for why she does things. I'm
Oh,
perfectly fine with that being left to our
really?
imagination.
The why I want to be answered. The how I'm okay with not being completely answered.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I'm fine with the theory, like Renan's theory that I read earlier today, actually,
Mm-hmm.
about like her strong value of human connection, which, as I said, I touched on it a little bit last month, but never dived as deep as he did. And I really liked that. I think it, like, it explains her actions so far, and if it is true, then I do see a possibility of her helping out and potentially killing the centipede. So I guess that's my prediction right now. It's something that I feel would make sense, and it's something that I think would be nice as well.
Yeah. Again, like I said earlier, that connection thing is a good possibility. Um, I want it to be confirmed. Like someone has to say it, whether it's her
Right.
or someone else. Make a big brain. I don't care how,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it needs to be um, brought up. Otherwise, I think fans will be theorizing for a while, and that's something that I would be a little unsatisfied if it's never answered personally.
That's fair.
As for what else happens after that,
Yeah, predictions time, I guess.
yeah.
Final predictions time on Titan Tea Time ever.
Oh my gosh, it's so
It's kind of sad.
surreal and sad.
Yeah.
Oh, like I was saying, we'll see the fate of the Wall Titans and the Centipede Titans, whether they go up in smoke or stay Titans or turn back to people.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the Centipede does die, I do think that the Titans will turn back into people. I really do.
That would be the happiest ending.
Yeah, maybe not entirely on point, but I think it would work, especially like we were saying with Gabby not having her moment with Falco and Reiner. Like all that work for nothing, and then Annie and Lionheart and Reiner and her mom. I
Right.
just I think that needs to happen.
Fair. I personally, I loved it the way it was done in this chapter. I loved the, like, how we were so close in some cases, and then it was just ripped away from us. I kind of really
Hmm.
enjoy that. But
I mean, it's still there.
uh, yeah, but it wouldn't be worth as much if it all ended up good in the end, I think.
There.
But anyway, something you speculated about last month was how paths could potentially, if I mean, let's say it is the centipede that is making paths exist,
Hmm.
which, I mean, I think makes a lot of sense to think that. So if the centipede dies, and basically you had this theory that paths wouldn't necessarily disappear, but it would stop spreading. Was your theory that
Mm.
basically any new Eldian born would not be connected to paths, but all of the
Mm-hmm.
ones that were already connected to it would remain connected to it? You had a theory like that, which I really like. I mean, I still really like that theory.
Okay.
And if that's the case, obviously we don't know, but if that is the case, then and if the centipede would die and this thing would happen where paths would still exist and everyone that are already connected to each other through it would remain connected, but any newborn Eldian would not be, then none of the
Mhm.
Titans would transform back because Titan powers would still exist for as long as these people alive are living,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's fair.
And I think, first of all, I like it for that reason, because it would make it so that those, like Jean and Connie, will not come back, as sad as that is. But also, I think if Historia's child is born basically right after the death of the centipede, then it would be potentially the first Eldian baby born without, like, not connected to paths and without any
Right.
risk of being Titan transformed. And
Exactly.
and that would work really well with the final panel, if that is the
Mm-hmm.
baby.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying it definitely is, but if that's all, if all of this is true that I've been saying in the past minute, then that would work really well.
I agree with that possibility. I mean, I guess I mentioned that theory earlier. Uh, I also think another theory of just the Titan powers and completely dissolving is a possibility as well.
Absolutely.
Them turning back, and I think that you would get the same sort of ending where the child is free, the baby is free. She's not part of the Titan, you know, curse anymore.
Hmm.
So I think that would still work. But as much as I say I would like, or I would want them to turn back, at the end of the day, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't be completely heartbroken if they don't, because like you said, Jean and Connie had a great moment. I would just feel really bad for those three people I mentioned, but I would still be okay because I think the Titan power would have ended, and at least the suffering would be over for the future generation.
Right.
Um, that's that's my uh, thoughts on that. But you know, I of the two, I'm rooting for. Or I'm most hoping for a ending where Gabby Reiner and Annie have their happy moment.
Okay, fair enough. So I, as I said in the earlier, like much earlier in this discussion, the only character out of the ones that were turned into pure Titans that I want to turn, that I want back, is Gabby. And
Mm-hmm.
because,
Yeah.
first of all, as I said, she didn't get the kind of payoff that Jean and Connie did. And also, as we may have touched on, you know, Reiner and Falco have both been very keen on protecting her and making sure that she's able to live.
Mm.
And, well, I mean, at this point, if all of the pure Titans are turned back into humans and just Titan curses and everything disappear, then in that case, yeah, they would have achieved that goal for Gabby.
Right.
But seeing as that's not what I want, the best option for Gabby is to eat a Titan shifter.
Mm.
And so I was thinking, and I think a lot of others have as well, I think it would be pretty beautiful if she would eat, well, beautiful and sad, if she
Mm-hmm.
would eat Reiner.
Yeah.
Because I mean, ever
Yeah.
since ever since her character was introduced, she was kind of the heir to the armored Titan. And there was a part in the Marley arc. There was a conversation between her and Reiner, which sadly was not in the anime. They didn't adapt this scene.
Huh.
It was a scene between her and Reiner. One of my favorite scenes between them. So that was like, it's like the one gripe I have with the anime adaptation of the Marley arc, is that one scene was not in it. Otherwise, I love that adaptation. But anyway, it was a scene between Gabby and Reiner where Gabby's basically talking about how when she inherits his Titan, she's going to be able to understand his struggles and be able to understand the hard parts that are even, too hard to talk about, because she's going to inherit his
Mm.
memories. And they have this really, I think it's I mean, it's a sad but also a very sweet conversation between each other. And it would kind of come full circle if now she would inherit his Titan, and maybe we would even learn something new about Reiner.
Hmm.
But through Gabby in the final chapter. I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing at this point, but
Sure.
I think that could be an interesting possibility. And yeah, I just think it would be a nice kind of way to tie it all together. Alternatively,
Okay.
she would eat Falco because he also wants to save
Oh
her.
no!
that would be
No! No! No!
sadder.
No!
That
No!
yeah, that would be far sadder. But it's also like an option that I thought about because
Yeah.
we
I
all
guess you got to consider all your options.
because he also wants to save Gabby basically just as much as Reiner does.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh, So yeah, just throwing that one out there, but definitely not hoping for it.
I think you you bring a good theory, and of all the Titans that she could potentially eat, and if she and of all the people who have turned into Titans, she's definitely the one I'd want to turn back, and
Mm,
Reiner would be the one to be the perfect one to be eaten.
yeah.
Weird way to say, but
Yeah.
because again, he would do so much for her, and she was always kind of destined to be the armor titan in a way, like she was trying to prepare to be that. So
Mm,
I totally see all that, and I think it would be nice to have Gabby and Falco kind of, you know, be together with how many years? 13?
13, yeah.
13, 13 years that they have left.
Mm,
Um, I think that would be a nice ending for them whenever that. I mean, I don't think they'd show that in the manga, but
right.
they would have that together. However, I think that Gabby just end up becoming a Titan and eating the armor Titan would take away what Falco and Reiner worked so hard to do. Reiner doesn't want to give her that future,
I know.
and and neither does Falco. And I guess that would be so tragic, and people would eat that tragedy up.
Totally.
But I just I don't know. I feel like the suffering has been enough, and to have it go that far is maybe a bit much. But hey, if it happens, it happens, and you know what? I'll probably be like, wow, great, 10 out of 10.
And hey, it's what Gabby wanted. She wanted to inherit the armored titan.
I don't know if yeah, she did. I don't know if she is feeling that way before that. I don't know. I
Right.
think at this point she's kind of not for the transforming into Titans anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she definitely has gone through a big growth.
Hmm. But I guess if you're a Titan, and your only sweet release is to become a shifter, then yeah, that could work. So
Could work.
I'm glad you shared your thoughts on that, and I'm glad we were able to talk about that.
Mm,
About Aaron, actually, I don't think we need much of Aaron, but maybe a little more into some of his mindset, and not
right.
necessarily from Aaron, obviously, because he's dead, unless there's some pathsy business that happens. I think that Aaron, we'll see what Aaron was thinking with Historia, Ymir, or both. Well, through Ymir, Historia, or both.
Mm,
So there's still a little more from him, and I think Aaron fans will get maybe a little more closure on some things, in my opinion. But if there isn't anything, I'm still okay with how it is. But I do think we could get a little more.
yeah. And I was also going to say Historia next chapter. It's been my most common prediction throughout this entire
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and I've always been wrong, more or less. Um, but I think I can say with pretty good certainty that next chapter will get some at least decent focus on her.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't, I'm gonna riot. Like
Yeah,
I don't care if it's just me. I'm gonna riot.
I think there'll be plenty of other people who write with you, and
Yeah, yeah.
I probably wouldn't riot, but I would be very upset because
Yeah.
he's kind of been teasing this reveal for her with her baby and Farmer Coon that I
Mm,
think it needs to be resolved and not just left
absolutely.
hanging.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm one of those people who think Historia went through an amazing character arc, and this part with her giving birth and being alone on not alone, but being with Farmer Coon on a farm and hiding away from the government because of her pregnancy. I guess technically not hiding, but you know what I mean. Like she's staying safe. I think that doesn't take away from her character. I think she's again doing what she needs to do for her people. That she's obviously taken on that responsibility, and I I think she's also doing this for her friends as well, for what Aaron has suggested for her. Now I think that it would be so much better and needed that we get some sort of touch on that, and anything that's short of her expressing her feelings and thoughts about the situation would be a disservice to her. I think
Mm.
having just one shot of her or and her baby and
Right.
that's it. That that's maybe not enough.
I would hate that.
But yeah, but I do think that that doesn't take it wouldn't take away from her growth and what happened beforehand. I do think,
Sure.
and I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
and I don't think that Aaron Isayama will leave her hanging. I really do think he will address it.
Yeah, I also really am holding out hope for that because yeah, as you said, like it's been teased like little by
Mm-hmm.
little throughout this last arc, and it
Right.
it definitely has got to get a good payoff at the end. So far, and we're at the second to last chapter. So far, Isayama has not disappointed me, not you either. I guess,
Mm-mm.
like
No.
so I really don't see reason to not trust in Isayama.
Well, and I think we were even saying last chapter that okay, Aaron would be the second to last chapter, and Astoria would be the last. I think actually we were probably saying that
We probably did.
for a few months. So
Sounds
I
familiar.
think we're on track. We're on track.
Yeah, yeah. The last thing I got on predictions, or well, it's not predictions as much as it's like just something I want. What I want from the next chapter, is that other than some of the things that we've talked about already for the
Mm-hmm.
final chapter, one other thing that I want is just at least the beginnings of some sort of resolution between Eldians and non-Eldians.
Yeah.
Obviously, I understand that the conflict is so complicated that, and we said this earlier, it's not gonna be solved overnight. It's something that's
Mm-hmm.
gonna take generations to really, really get through.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to see some kind of sign toward a positive future
Right.
in the final chapter. Just something. I don't know what it's going to be exactly. Could be related to Miller or something else, but
Mm-hmm.
something where we can see the light at the end of the tunnel is something that I would really, really like.
I 100% agree. This is something that I've been kind of, lack of a better word, preaching about uh, when it comes to Carlos Fritz's decision to move all the Eldians to parody um, and isolating them. I think that coming together and seeing each other, even when you guys when they hate each other, is key to dissolving the racism and the hatred for
Mhm.
each other. And I think only by working together can you truly come together and understand each other as human beings. So
Absolutely.
whether or not the Titan powers are there, it still needs to happen where this beginnings of coming together are seen. I think, in
100%.
my opinion. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
My final my final thing is about the final page actually,
All right.
and I think we could say with almost 100%, maybe 98%, that the person holding the baby is not Aaron. Okay, at least in that instance.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we could say that, right?
Uh-huh.
I I believe, and I know we've said this before, that is Grisha holding Aaron.
Right.
Okay, Grisha has used the term omai. I mean, omai is not necessarily a one person only kind of term, but Grisha and Aaron were both people who used it,
Right.
and I'm sure Aaron picked it up from his dad. Now, Grisha's holding Aaron, but how can that be? Is there some sort of alternate reality to all this? Potentially, and in a sense, it might be, but I think that this goes back to what we talked about ages ago, how it's a comparison between two scenes, one
Mhm.
in the present day and then one in the past, where Grisha actually did pick up Aaron and say that you're free.
Right.
Actually, before I go to what the comparison could be, let me talk about the Grisha line. I think he says that not necessarily because of the events he sees in the future, which was actually something I was thinking about, that maybe he sees Aaron become free in the future. I think it's more that because he was born into this world, he's free. And I think that'll be the final message, is that because you're born into this world, you're free. I think that kind of ties in his mother's theme and then Aaron's theme, because I was born into this world and then freedom. So
Yeah.
I think that's what he's mean by that. Now for the comparison panel, he can go really morbid, and it be Mikasa holding Aaron's head,
Okay.
which would be very morbid, but kind of edgy. Or I still think it could be Mikasa holding another baby, maybe Historia's baby, in that way, and then it parallels to Grisha holding Aaron.
Yeah.
Now, why would it be Historia's baby? Well, it could still be possible that that is Aaron's kid, Aaron's child. I'm not putting it. I'm not saying for without a doubt that it's one way or the other. I'm just saying that is a possibility. And I know Historia Aaron shippers will get really excited about that, but and they'll be insufferable. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I got my Mikasa Aaron kiss. I don't care what you say. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that it's a real possibility that that could be Aaron's child, just as much as a possibility as it is Farmer Coon's.
Fair enough.
So there's a lot to unwrap there. So
Yeah.
go for it.
No, it's fair. Like saying it's a possibility, yes, because we don't know for sure, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not shipping Aaron with anyone though.
Oh, yeah.
Want to make that clear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess even if they're not shipped, they could
Right.
have
A baby.
have a baby. Yeah. But I still I don't want that. I don't lean toward that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it is still interesting, and I do still stand by, what we talked about ages ago about it being like a comparison image. Like there is something
Mm-hmm.
in the real world where someone says something along the lines of "you're free" to something or to someone,
Mm-hmm.
and then cutting to the final panel being like basically the same imagery but with Grisha holding Aaron. Which
Yeah.
I don't remember when we said that, but I feel like it was a long time ago now.
It was a long time ago.
But yeah, I still kind of like that. Although I mean, it could also just be not that. It could just be like straight up someone holding Historia's baby or someone holding the Cliff baby.
I don't think Cliff Baby's a.
Cliff baby? I mean, there's got to be something with the Cliff baby though. Something. At this point.
Nah. You
Do
think
you
so?
not- I thought you would think so.
No, because well, wow, how the tables have turned. I my thing about the Cliff Baby was just it not dying, and that it lives to see another day, and I think that was just really nice to potentially see, and maybe we'll get a little bit of that in the next
Right.
chapter.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it makes more sense to have it be Historia's baby that they hold instead of such a random baby, in my opinion. But then again, maybe the action and the story doesn't really leave from that spot until the final page. If that's the case, then the only baby in the vicinity that anybody of significance would hold, besides the story herself, would be that baby.
True. Yeah, man. Yeah, there's a lot that remains to be seen, and there is
True.
just one chapter left. It feels
Woo!
unreal.
It does.
A month from now, it will all be over. Like a month from now, we'll be sitting here talking about the final chapter.
Oh,
It's like
it'll be done. There will be crying.
it
there
feels
will be
weird. Yeah.
cheering. There will be angry people, but it'll be done.
Yep. Everything. A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. But once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And I think if we get some of the questions that we brought up answered, I think I, for the most part, brought up questions that I thought were more or less needed for the story to completely be satisfying. I think, and I think those answers or those questions, for the most part, will be answered. So I'm looking for a pretty satisfactory ending for this. I know some people might be worried, or maybe just already feel like it's not going to be satisfying. But I don't know. I feel like it's on track.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I don't have any worries. I feel like a lot of people saying like a regular length chapter isn't going to be able to give us a satisfying ending, but I don't think so. I think First of all, I'm cool with some things being left to our interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the things that are necessary, I think there will be enough time to cover all of that.
Right.
I guess that's it. Do you want to rate the chapter? I think we've been rating the last couple of chapters.
Yeah, we have, haven't we? As a Mikasa fanboy, I have to go 10 out of 10. I have to.
Nice. Nice.
Because this is what I have been wanting and praying for so long. And it exceeded my imaginations in that, you know, we get one of the most beautiful pieces of art from Isayama.
Yeah.
It kind of this bittersweet ending. Like it's so bitter, but also so sweet that
Yeah.
it kind of brings up conflicting emotions in me, and I love it for that. So
Totally.
yeah, it almost feels like all, and maybe this is selfish of me, I know, but it feels like all my shipping of Mikasa and Eren feels almost justified in a way.
To each their own.
Yeah, I know, to each their own, and I guess that's why I was a little pushed back a bit by the disagreement. But hey, not everyone has to think the same way.
Right, right.
But I'm glad that we were able to get this side of Mikasa and get her personal growth that she desperately needed. And so I think going on to who my favorite character is, it has to be Mikasa because of this.
I can totally see that after this chapter, because she definitely grew a lot for me as well in this chapter, and she kind of made all of the previous times when I've doubted her character, it made it all worth it, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
with this chapter. So I definitely see that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm rating this chapter a 9 out of 10 probably. I loved it absolutely. A 9 out of 10 is
Mm-hmm.
a great score.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So yes, absolutely, absolutely wonderful. And I can't wait for the final chapter. I still can't like get over that. Like it's the last chapter in a month. It's just crazy.
I can't wait to see this animated, and or
Yeah.
just to see this all drawn in color. I mean, it's gonna take a while probably. I'm kind of hoping we get a movie because this is something I would love to see on the big screen
Oh
and
yeah.
just, bawling my eyes out at this all happening.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. But I guess I could bawl at home too.
It would be awesome, and I mean to share like cinematic experiences with an audience can be such an
Yeah.
amazing feeling too. So
Hmm.
I do think the finale, right, that we are reading right now, I think it would translate so well into such like an experience like that on the big screen.
Hmm.
So with that said, if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga. If you like this episode, please share it around with anyone you think might enjoy it as well. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time, where we'll talk about the final chapter of Attack on Titan. Bye bye.
See you later. Oh, I forgot to say that this is a masterpiece. Oh well, I'll say it next month.